Seriously though, I hope that James doesn't have to fix all of the colour correction on this. I'm looking very pink and pale. It is what it is. It is what it is. Welcome to the Goblin. Welcome to the Goblin Lair. Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Tues Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval themed format where I, the Crown Jules of WhatCulture.com, take a list chosen by you, yes you the person who had to reset their webcam, not entirely sure if the colour correction's coming in. I'm looking very red and pale at the same time up here. Yes, you get to decide what list I dole out to you each and every week, and this week we're talking about mini-bosses that utterly wreck players. Now this is the thing, we've all had our asses absolutely handed to us from time to time by big optional super bosses or just regular ones that just shoving their feet right in your face and being like, oh, that's a lot of toe action, oh, no. But when it comes to mini-bosses, they can still absolutely wreck you from time to time. Just because they haven't been promoted up and haven't broken through the glass ceiling to become official bosses doesn't mean that they can't absolutely hoist you on their petards. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 7 hardest video game mini-bosses that wrecked players. You know the drill by now. Say hi to me here in the live chat and put your suggestions for next week's episode down in the comments section below. But with that in mind, let's get on with this list, shall we? Number 7, Curry and Rice, Gunstar Heroes. So, Gunstar Heroes might have been a title that has previously flown under your radar until literally me mentioning it right now, but I am glad to have introduced you to this title because it is an utter chef kiss of a game. In fact, if you're looking for sort of boss rush action platformer games with tons of guns and tons of funs, then trust me, Gunstar Heroes is pretty much the title to beat. From its delicious visuals to its outstanding boss rush mentality, it never relents with its action and it is a blast to play through from start to finish. However, don't be fooled into thinking that it's going to be an easy ride because there are more than enough bosses here looking to curtail your fun. And of all of them, the one that sticks out like a bloody swollen boil on my ass, is this strangely named Curry and Rice sub-boss, as not only does this thing look like if sausage ice cream was a thing and that thing was f***ing melting into a horror show, but it's a surprisingly deadly encounter that catches a ton of players completely unaware more often than not. You see, the issues with Curry and Rice are myriad because of the fact it will chew you up and spit you out, and not from its mouth, because every single time that you try and do a jump attack against it, it will just be like, nah man, not having any of that, and then it'll hit you on your ass, and then it will just sort of like do this, it'll go like, hey, like Kermit the Frog, when he is in a state of panic, he's just like, oh, stop doing that, and then you just chop on top of your head. What I'm saying is it's quite difficult. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, Jules, I'm just going to shoot Curry and Rice until he is just base elements. Well, this is the problem. In this encounter, you don't have access to any of your guns. Yeah. That's why it's a real challenge. Oh, and if you do manage to beat this thing without issue, you better not be standing next to its head because it will explode and potentially one-shot you, which happened more often than I'd care to admit. Cheers, mates. Not only do you look like something a dog would cough up, but you're a sore loser as well. Number 6, the Chained Ogre, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Now, for a time, there was nothing funnier for me personally than watching people who had bested Dark Souls and Bloodborne just come up against Sekiro and have no idea how to actually tackle this game, because this is a title that rewards aggressive offense rather than just turtle poking and just trying to duck around the side of an enemy just so you can catch like what's betwixt its butt cheeks and just be like, well, that's a nice hole, better shove my spear right into it. No, you have to be right up in your enemy's face and basically examining their molars. Yet, unlike a lot of other From Software titles, Sekiro actually contained a relatively gentle learning curve, well, at least by their standards, with enemies offering up slow and easy to parry attacks in the early stages, and even the early named generals being little more than blocking and timing training dummies. However, shit truly hit the fans when it came to squaring up against the first Chained Ogre, as this was akin to the developers running alongside you when you're first starting to learn to ride your first bike without training wheels, and they're cheering and applauding you. They're saying, well done, you got past the first few generals, you beat those first few enemies, you can do this. And just when you start to believe in yourself, that's when they throw a branch right into the spokes of your wheels and you just fly over the handlebars and just face grind like Tony Hawk all the way along the pavement. And then they walk up to you and they spit on your corpse. That's what it feels like. The Chained Ogre's placement sees it surrounded by other enemies, making it even a challenge just to get to. And even then, its erratic attacks, diving grab attack, and delayed stomps felt so alien that it would often incite a blind panic. And not helping matters was the fact that this battle takes place on a bloody staircase next to a cliff, meaning that it was entirely possible to fall to your doom while trying to avoid the flurry of fury right in front of you. The Chained Ogre is a rather emblematic enemy of Sekiro, because it was right here in this very moment where the leash came off this rabid dog. Number 5. Myriad, Halo Infinite. Now, while some might have bounced off Halo Infinite's rather strange and sparse approach to its own campaign, there was one thing that many players across the globe championed in this open world, and that was the high-value targets that you'd be tasked with taking down, or as I like to call them, bastard special enemies with bastard special weapons that bastard well kill you in one bastard hit. These were fun and rather refreshing distractions, allowing you to play around with grapple hooks and other tech to traverse the world and get the jump on these jumped-up mini-bosses, which made for some truly piss-taking scenarios where Chief would just land next to his target, blast him in the face with a shotty, and then hop away like a heavily armoured Spider-Man. It was delicious. Yet that hit-and-run tactic turned to out-and-out fleeing for your life when it came to taking on Myriad, a pair of bonded hunters who are even more resilient and hit harder than Halo 5's public reception. Battling against them is such a grind that even Infinite's multiplayer progression system would call it arduous, and it's made all the worse when you learned firsthand that just 1 or 2 shots could turn you from Chief to Chump. To say that Myriad is the hardest mini-boss encounter in all of Halo Infinite is quite the understatement, as it will take everything from you in order to beat them, including very possibly your soul. Number 4, Super Salvadores, Resident Evil 4. Now, there are pretty much 2 things guaranteed to send a shiver down the spines of any hardened Resident Evil fan. The first being, well, any of the live action films, because that dialogue, woof! And also, the second one is the revving of a chainsaw from everyone's favourite doctor, Dr. Salvadores, from Resident Evil 4. Now, at this point in time, players were 3 mainline entries deep and pretty well versed in everything that Umbrella could throw at us. But Resident Evil 4 made no bones about trying to saw through your own by placing the good old doctor as an encounter mere minutes into the experience. However, while I know that a fair few of us fell pretty early thanks to us misunderstanding the danger the good doctor presented, he's not actually the variant that I'm talking about today, because there exists an even harder, even more brutal, even more... Hello, Beefgates, an even more Beefgates version of this jumped-up, chainsaw-wielding maniac. And you can find the Super Salvadore in the game's mercenary mode. Now, to be clear, the Waterworld stage, which is where this Super Salvadore exists, is already the greatest test of any player's skill, as its sprawling and piecemeal level design means that certain areas offer little cover while others can turn into bottlenecks pretty bloody quickly. Fill this space with high-level enemies, and this is already a huge challenge. But wait, there is more. There is more, James. There's more. Just calm down. There's more, and I'm going to tell you about it now. And by more, I mean a constantly swinging, fast-moving, super-sized Salvadore that can and will kill you in one hit whenever it gets close enough. When coupled with Resident Evil 4's static aiming system, this is a truly terrifying and often very short encounter. Oh, and to top it all off, when you get to 30 kills within this stage, it spawns a second one. Oh god! Oh god, no. Number 3, Silver Lionels, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, before we begin talking about the almighty Breath of the Wild game, let's go and ask James. Let's ask James about what he thinks of Breath of the Wild. Do you like Breath of the Wild, James?
I love it.
Yeah, I thought he'd like this one. But James, I'll ask you a second time. Let's ask James times 2. What do you think of Silver Lionels? Yeah, well, that's today's entry. Now, at first, I wasn't entirely sure what even constituted a mini-boss when it came to the brilliant Breath of the Wild video game, seeing as you can fight Calamity Ganon right out of the gate, thus pulling into question as to whether all of the Shrine Guardians are then relegated to optional bosses, and then if this is the case, can there even be mini-sub-optional bosses beneath them? However, before I lost my mind to this increasingly widening mind hole, I was hit smack in the face by the Silver Lionel's horrific barrage of attacks, and then I remembered, oh yes, oh no, I hate these things. Rocking a monstrous 6,000 HP and hitting you with attacks that will leave you making a face like a cat's arsehole if it could taste lemons. The Silver Lionel is the be-all and your end-all of Breath of the Wild elite enemies. There's nothing quite like that sinking feeling that you experience when this absolute unit rears back and begins to roar, only for you to realise that there is no earthly way that you're going to escape from its area of effect attack. And don't even think about trying to snipe one of these from afar, because it will utterly embarrass you with a barrage of elemental arrows of its own. Taking down a regular Lionel is no joke, but trying to take on one of these, well, you become the punchline, and a very bruised one at that. Number 2, Rivals, the Tekken Series. Now, as everyone worth their Hadouken knows, fighting games are built on rivalries. Especially rival schools, which literally not only has it in the name, but is such a good game, am I right lads, etc, etc. And as such, your quest to give the world a good fisting is made all the better when you can give your hated foe a middle finger as well. Now, more often than not, these rivalries will actually eclipse that of the threat of the actual main boss of the game, as instead of some random cheap-ass fighter being thrown in to maniacally laugh about world domination or some such bollocks, this is a simmering storyline that has sometimes been gestating over several games. Now, as you might expect, some fighting games actually use this rivalry system in order to add an extra layer of challenge right before the final boss. But when it came to the Tekken series, after, well, Tekken 5 at least, things became such a difficulty spike in places that it could actually impale the player. Now, the reason for this is that after Tekken 5, these rivalries started using Ghost Fighter data to inform what moves your opponent would use, and the better that you were at dispatching earlier combatants, the harder the Ghost data used will be as you progress, and when it came to the rival encounter, the game applies a kind of pseudo-multiplier based on your score or time, and picks a challenge setting accordingly. Suddenly, your moves are being read before you've even hovered over the inputs, and now your hated rival is spin-kicking you with combos that you're sure might as well come with Nelson from The Simpsons laughing at you. On lower difficulties, Tekken's rival system can provide a fair but pretty stiff challenge, but on higher settings, oh, it is a death sentence. And number 1, The Witch, the Left 4 Dead franchise. Yes, that's right, this sound effect here is the reason that nightmares exist, and may well indeed leave you a crying wreck after going toe-to-toe with its originator. For The Witch from Left 4 Dead is an utter nightmare to both new and veteran players alike. Now, whereas the majority of other special infected in these games will still garner a few shocks here and there, they are for the most part pretty easy to take down, and even the hulking mass of rage that is the tank can become a bit of a cakewalk. However, no matter your skill, no matter how many hours you've clocked in Left 4 Dead 1 or 2, the Witch will always cause your blood to curdle slightly whenever you hear her cries. And once angered, the Witch becomes a homing one-hit killing machine that will likely see you lose 1 or 2 party members each and every time, unless you're extremely lucky. In fact, it can be bad luck that can make this scenario even worse, because thanks to some incredibly lovely RNG placement of their spawn locations, it can mean that sometimes these witches will spawn in doorways or passages that you need to pass by in order to get through. So yeah, in short, you're gonna die. Cheers. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 7 hardest mini-bosses that utterly wrecked players. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, as well as your suggestion for next week's episode, because I love to read all your comments, and I love to always fuel this lovely Choose Your Own Adventure machine. Doot doot. But if you want to chat to me further, in the meantime, you can do so by going over to Twitter and typing in @RetroJ with a 0 where the O should be, and you can get me there, and you can get James over on James Dowsey with an extra E's. But if you want to chat to me even further than that you can go over to Live and Let's Dice, where I stream every single Wednesday, so I'm going to be there live. At the moment, I'm doing a Fallout randomizer run with a ton of 40k mods in. My character's called Stone Cold Steve Scrungo, and it is going very well at the moment. I'm dressed as the Inquisitor from, or the Inquisition from 40k, and it's pretty mad, to say the least. But yeah, before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope that you treat yourself well with love and respect, my friends. All I want is for you to go out there and live your best life. That is all I ever want from you. So treat yourself with that love and respect that I know you deserve, and you know you deserve deep down as well. And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge. Now go out there and absolutely smash it today. Big love to you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.